You know, they say the great thing about being a kid is...
Narration, that'd do little for me.
Why do dogs sniff each other's butts?
It makes sense to me that Doolittle can understand what the animals are saying. I can accept that as a simple translation. But if he's just going to speak English back to the dog, and the dog understands it, then I'm going to have a hard time figuring out why everyone else in the world has a hard time communicating, at least their own wishes, to their pets.
Stop talking to the dog. She doesn't understand a word that you're saying.
Seems to me that young Doolittle could have proved he could talk to animals at a very early age if he wanted. He doesn't even try to correct his dad here.
Nice to meet you, John.
Yeah, he's just a kid, but that conversation about sniffing butts was very dog-specific, so it's hard to believe this asshole is smelling this asshole's asshole.
Come out of this, boy!
Note that later we find out that John's dad knows he can talk to animals. Despite knowing that, he calls an exorcist, because that's what you would do.
Hey, get out of here! Hey! Ah!
While the audience looked shamefully at Dr. Doolittle, I'm wondering how the piss pup got into the hall on its own. Is the owner on the other side of the door listening to John scream at their dog? Why are they okay with that?
And did I mention he was a father? A lot like his own father, who was a father to him before... Oh, look, she's got a giant egg.
Hey, movie! If you want the narrator to talk as if they're watching along with us, don't pick a character that is in the movie. Kid has a keep out sign or multiple keep out signs, and at least one addressed to their sibling cliche.
My name isn't Charisse. I've changed my name to Paprika.
That's so Raven.
He doesn't take anything we want seriously.
You might consider a little bit more one-on-one time with him. This is weird. Kyla Pratt gets a credit all to herself, while Raven Simone, who had long been established on The Cosby Show and hanging with Mr. Cooper, gets a shared credit with the guy who played Calvin's algebra teacher on The Wonder Years.
Maya, where are you going with that?
It's for my swan egg I found in the park.
I've never parented a child before, but if I did and they came home with a giant egg, I'm positive I'd be researching creatures that could crawl out, even if the internet wasn't the go-to search engine that it is today. There are libraries and zoos and Audubon societies to call.
I'm going to work. I'm out of here. Goodbye.
You're going to carry a mug to the car and lidlessly sip while driving? They're travel mugs, sir. Use them and save your clothes and car from needless staining.
Have you eaten shellfish again?
Just soft-shelled crab.
And what's the middle word?
Shell.
Exactly.
Granny's lost. He's not in his cage.
Holy We went from breakfast at the Doolittle place to a very brief discussion about his medical practice getting bought by a bigger company, straight to this lost guinea pig storyline. I guess this kind of story whiplash happens when you let a dog narrate the movie.
Your daughter's turning into a little wise ass.
She's turning into little you.
Okay, so Eddie Murphy, the beloved comic, might be a wise ass, but the character he's playing is a boring ass doctor with very little sense of humor. So in what way is he a wise ass? Movie has time for this. And what if these traps had worked? Would we be panning over a twitching guinea pig body and following the doctor to the pet store for a backup pet? See, it's only funny because nothing terrible happened. Also, what lunatic surrounds themselves with mouse traps before bed? Does he at any point question his ability to stay perfectly still all night long? This pet needs his own movie. He scaled the bed, found a gap in the sheets, and managed to climb a without alerting anyone. That is impressively sin-worthy.
And I'd appreciate it if you only call me down here when it was a real emergency.
What exactly did this dude tell John to get him out here? Wouldn't John have been able to assess the situation wasn't an emergency before this? It's a miracle! The dog vanished the moment the car swung into the road. Ha, ghost dog!
Why don't you watch where you're going next time, you bonehead?
So, a relatively minor near miss jolts John's animal talking capabilities? You know what? Doesn't matter. I'm blaming Hook for this child used to believe in the impossible and forgot all about it until something jarred his memory story. Hook. By the end of a sentence, this table is swarmed with aerial scavengers. What restaurant casually allows this to happen? Every table must be covered in bird and feathers, and there's no way anyone would come in here for a high-stake negotiation and merger meal while birds drop bombs and circle overhead.
Yes, unfortunately, we're going to have to make some staff cuts.
Bread?
No, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you offered me some bread and I don't want any thanks.
First off, the squirrel who said bread doesn't sound anything like Oliver Platt. Second off, is the squirrel a ventriloquist? He's on the ground, so wouldn't anything he says sound like it's coming from there?
Watch your head, I'm flying here!
You know, because pigeons regularly fly so low near people's heads and often yell warnings to people they know don't understand them.
You gotta move it.
Okay, this cop had no problem with the car being parked here this long until he saw Eddie Murphy get into it. Also, John just parked his car on the left side of the street on a bridge with no other cars around, which is probably the most obvious don't park here place in San Francisco aside from Alcatraz. And that's a time where you really know you f***ed up driving.
This is a dream. I'm dreaming right now.
Again, much like It's a Wonderful Life and Shrek 4, at what point do you realize the weird situation you're in is fact? He heard the dog the night before. He heard squirrels fighting over food, a pigeon flying overhead, and now a guinea pig. Sure, I'd wonder if something might be wrong with me too, but for f***'s sake, man, how much evidence do you need?
You're talking
and I understand you.
Which implies that before this moment, the guinea pig and supposedly all the other animals couldn't understand human language. But the movie goes on to have the animals sing pop songs, tell jokes, and reference geographical locations. But hey, let's throw logical thought to the wind.
Hey, what kind of doc are you? Hey, doc, this is cruel to animals.
Rodney couldn't understand John until a moment ago, so how would he know he's a doctor?
Stop, slow down.
If you can hear Rodney this well from inside the car, then what's the point of putting him on the roof? Also, I know this is a broad comedy, and the characters have to act in this over-the-top, silly manner, but what exactly does John accomplish by putting Rodney on the roof? Nothing that the plot or character needs, but we do get to hear Chris Rock singing Bob Dylan and being super annoying.
You're the one who can hear us, aren't you? The whole woods are talking about you, you know?
But how would she know this? From the vantage point of her tree earlier, she would have only seen the car swerve and hit the dog. John didn't run out of the car screaming, "Holy fuck, I can hear a dog speak! Nature, come to me!" He just drove away. Also, the only animal that knows he can talk to them is Rodney. But even when he was calling John names, John didn't respond back. I guess we're supposed to think Rodney just yelled into the void, "This guy can understand me!" and the animals just took him at his word.
Hey, buddy. Oh, nice. You broke Mr. Stinky, I think.
Keep away from me!
John?
Even though Lisa wouldn't have put two and two together, I find it somewhat convenient that she walked out of some completely different door of the cabin where she couldn't see the crazy amount of animals just surrounding John. Is this a sequel to Lady Hawk? What is this obsession?
You are tempting fate now, buddy.
Forget that he's able to understand these animals. The fact that John stumbles on animals doing things you never see animals doing is weird enough. Two rats standing on top of garbage on their hind legs and fighting?
He felt well enough to scream out bonehead before he left.
John the dog couldn't have spoken to you.
The first thing this guy thinks of to tell John is that he can't talk to dogs like he's still 8 years old. Not to assume he was kidding, or that he might have a mental health problem. I still find it amazing that he doesn't even want to try and prove he can talk to animals, which should be an easy thing to do.
Hey, shut up. You're a dog. Dogs can't talk.
This man literally hears words and sees doggy lips move, so he should absolutely be accepting that this is his new normal.
My dog can't see! He's deaf.
In which case, you should be using hand gestures and visual prompts rather than screaming louder. Me, I can't get this stupid woman's horrible voice out of my mind.
Don't fix me, okay? Please, don't fix me.
Sounds like the animals have always been able to understand humans somehow, because they all know what their owners want and why they're at the vet. I feel like the world would be a completely different place, even if only the animals can understand us.
So, what seems to be the problem?
Well, for starters, I'm not sure why you've brought someone else into the operation room during an active surgery. Equally concerning is leaving the dead creature on the adjacent table and simply carrying on with your new patient consult.
Just me, or is he, hovering around my butt a lot?
It's not just you, but half the jokes in this movie hover around butts a lot. Little Doolittle sniffed one, bigger Doolittle climbed Ass Mountain to give a shot, and now here we're at the vet clinic being butt-barded. Thank you, late 90s. This is the pinnacle of humor.
I can manually retrieve it.
What's he saying?
According to the rules of this movie, you should be able to understand what he's saying.
Laxative or surgery?
Laxative!
You know, why don't you just give him a laxative? It'll probably come out later on.
Also, it's established at other points in the movie that John talks to the animals in their own language, meaning he should be barking, which undoubtedly would cause the vet to be alarmed or at least confused.
Hi, Daddy.
Ruff!
Daddy, is that a dog?
That's cute. The dog saw his opportunity to insert himself into the family, but how would he have known that Dr. D was on the phone with his daughter? Last we saw, his hairy butt was vanishing over the horizon.
Mommy, guess what? Daddy got me a dog.
This kid hears a dog and assumes her dad got her a dog. There's no doubt that this kid's high hopes are a way of getting Norm McDonald more work in this movie. Every time a kid wishes, Norm gets more riches. Or something. I'm working on the rhyme, but you see what I'm saying. Terrible assumption by the kid.
What a wonderful place. What a wonderful camp.
Movie inspires Daddy Day Camp, which was reverse engineered to inspire Daddy Daycare first.
But it turns out he's a doctor.
This is a totally random scene. The movie just plugs into the edit. It means absolutely nothing. We already know the animals know that John can speak to them. And we saw the scene where he pulled the stick out of Jenna Elfman's wing.
Hello.
So begins the animal invasion portion of the program, and at no point are we shown how anyone got into the apartment complex, rang the bell, or opened a door.
That's Lucky's out here. He wants me to take him for a walk first, so I gotta take Lucky for a walk, then I gotta deal with Mark.
This is like the third or fourth time John has turned down sex with his awesome wife because of something he doesn't even have to keep a secret. The whole plot of this movie revolves around John acting like his secret power is a mistress that he has to hide room to room until his wife looks away long enough so that the mistress can jump out the back window.
Oh my God, what a zoo.
Speaking of, how do penguins escape a zoo and navigate the streets to find Dr. Doolittle? We have circus, street, zoo, and farm animals all converging into one apartment, and I need to see how this happened. A f***ing reindeer.
Looks like they need to talk to a doctor, Doc.
Our butts hurt.
I'm sure we could do a bonus round of how many times butts are mentioned in this movie, but I'm just gonna add, 27 sins for it. Sounds about right. Also, yes, he's a doctor, but he's not a veterinarian. Even if these animals told him exactly their problem, he'd have to consult an expert, right?
And the way he stares at a robin's breast, it's enough to make you sick.
They're orange.
Skip!
You have a drinking problem.
All the problems these animals present to John are human problems. Feels like the movie could have taken out the awful part at the beginning where he had to give up his dog and made him forget his gift to speak to animals and just made him a vet in the first place. But something had to fill a movie that's barely 85 minutes, I guess.
What you're suffering from is called obsessive compulsive behavior.
Oh, I guess I missed the part where John is a fully trained psychiatrist. Sometimes a movie is what it doesn't show you. You fill in those gaps on your own.
Throw the damn ball!
Following the rules of this universe, this dog is barking its ass off at top volume. The barking and cooing and bleeding happening in this apartment complex doesn't wake anyone, meaning everyone's dead. All the animals murdered them to have Dr. Doolittle to themselves. Where's the remake?
You're gonna kick me off the force. I'm as blind as a bat.
And you clippity-clopped your way to Dr. Doolittle's house how?
Tell me what you think of these.
Medical Dr. Doolittle somehow created horse glasses using magnifying glasses and a coat hanger. This movie is all the up.
Holy road apples! I can see!
Except a horse's blind spot is directly in front of its face, so these glasses are useless. Jesus, how do I know so much about these animals and this movie knows so little?
Nothing can stop me, nothing!
Oh, look at that, a donut shop.
Haha, cops and their donuts. Never fails to be hilarious.
I mean, all those animals, you know what? I bet it's just the tip of the iceberg, and word gets around what's going on.
The doctor, you must help us quick.
And where's the doctor headed in the middle of the night? Is it purely because the movie needs him to run into a monkey in an alley who tells him about the depressed tiger?
Goodbye, cruel world.
I know a movie about a guy who can talk to animals isn't supposed to be realistic, but a movie like Dr. Doolittle presents us a world that is basically the same as ours, except that one guy can talk to animals. So now they present us with a tiger that's threatening to jump off a building. And this is where a world just a hair different from ours starts to become unrealistic for the movie. Can any of us imagine a tiger that would do any of this? In the Doolittle world, the animals are just humans in animal bodies. This circus keeps a goddamn tiger out in the open for any asshole to stick their hands into his cage. There's not one person guarding this area or anything keeping people at a safe distance.
I can get underpants. Not really.
He blew off the Callaway meeting.
This movie is all over the place.
Listen, you wouldn't believe what's going on here.
But I want to believe. I want to stop wondering how they enter their apartment. I want to stop imagining the missing scene where Mrs. Doolittle rushes into the kitchen and wrestles the sloth off the pots and pans and carries it like a baby while trying to explain to the animal control how she's come to possess such a creature. I want to believe there is an unseen edit, and I demand Fox release the Thomas cut.
He said...
You know I wouldn't be working on this rat unless it was an emergency.
This guy's gone from, I sure hope no one finds out about my secret power, to f it in absolutely zero time. John did CPR on this rat and it worked. And thank God it did, right? Otherwise, this movie becomes a very different thing. And Sarah Paulson probably shows up to tell him what a delusional prick he's been. And he has to share a room with the robber that he stopped in coming to America.
Who would have ever thought you would end up in a mental institution?
Oh, he went to a mental institution? Well, I want to keep that sweet Glass Coming to America reference, so it's a sin.
You gotta believe me.
Seriously, what happened between the time John resuscitated the rat and him getting sent to the mental institution? Did he not have one chance to show he could talk to animals in some way? The least the movie could do was show the animals are like Michigan J. Frog when it comes to taking instructions from Doolittle in front of other people. We'd send the shit out of that too, but at least we'd see John fighting to make people believe in him.
Here you go, your medicine.
This is the food spread at this mental institution? Wait. I can hang out in my robe, reject meds, and eat like this? Sign me up!
Now what is all this?
This is to prove to me and the rest of the world that you can actually talk to animals.
And you happen to have an orangutan and a brainwave measuring machine at your disposal for this very occasion? Sure, you do you, movie.
Adios y muchas gracias por nada.
John tried to talk to this orangutan, and he just sat there and did nothing, like the aforementioned Michigan J. Frog situation. But if he could speak Spanish, why didn't he do that when John was so desperately trying to communicate with him? Don't most people who speak another language at least say, I don't know English, or some instead of just being a dick? Plus, if John really is making animal noises when he communicates, do Spanish orangutans make a different sound than English ones?
That's why I couldn't understand. You think you're slick, you went and got a monkey from south of the border.
¿Tú conoces Will Smith?
Of course the f***ing orangutan knows who Will Smith is. The movie is 90s as f***. There are also references to The Usual Suspects, Sling Blade, and Jurassic Park, as if this movie was afraid you wouldn't know it was from the 90s.
You're trying to kill me?
Hey, never mind that. You get your little furry ass back in your cage, Rodney.
My son Rodney, little hairy boy, sleeps in the cage. I have to keep him in the cage because he has
Haji.
But we've established that Dr. Doolittle squeaks and chirps in the language of the animals. So here he was rage squeaking into the phone, and there would be no reason to explain what he was yelling about. Damn it, movie. You've robbed me of hearing Eddie Murphy rage squeak. Hey! Looking at this scene, I'm wondering how nobody saw John drive into the circus area in the first place. It's not like there's some secret way of driving through a circus to get to the tiger cage, but that's exactly what he did.
I told you they'd get away.
No thanks to you.
It's okay, guys. John isn't around to hear the inane chatter. We don't need to hear pigeons being unfunny right now.
Where the hell is Doolittle? You know, I just talked to him. He stopped at an orphanage to take care of a sick child.
Rodney survives this. Also, I've never sat on a guinea pig before, but if I did, I'd imagine that the nerve endings in my ass would immediately inform my brain that there was something very, very wrong happening betwixt my cheeks. Also, in case you were wondering about that woman we've seen twice who's allergic to shellfish and keeps going to the hospital for it, here's her character about to eat a crab from her purse. It is non-stop goddamn hilarity.
Don't throw that away. That's the marrow. It's the best part of the bone.
Bones are in the medical waste trash can. Bones? I'll be a broken record since the movie is, so how the did Rodney get up to the sink area and hit the hand dryer thing and know what it was? This movie is basically 75% filler. In 1998, this movie came in 8th at the worldwide box office. Worldwide! Making nearly $300 million. How starved were we for entertainment back then? Mulan came out just a week before this. Everybody was ignoring Out of Sight, which came out the same day. Armageddon was a week away. Somehow this 85-minute movie filled with butts and crab legs with jokes written by grandpas and approved by a neighborhood watch made $300 million.
Watch your back, everybody. Try to get to the operating room.
The only way to get to the operation room is back upstairs and through the conference room filled with people. This way!
Live prey.
Are you saying the humans walking around aren't live prey too? How do you think that makes me feel, Albert Brooks?
I thought it was a handicap, but it's a gift, Lisa.
You thought John's ability to talk to animals was a handicap? You believed that he could do this, and your first thought was, I need to put an end to this. Your family could have been set for life with this power.
It's like Noah's Ark out here.
Yes, we all know the Noah's Ark manifest was 2 pigs, a dog, a donkey, a horse, a raccoon, a monkey, and a goose. Noah went out to sea and was like, damn, why did I build this thing so big to accommodate 8 animals?
This odd collection of animals has actually prevented San Francisco's finest from entering the building.
This odd collection of animals has actually prevented San Francisco's finest from entering the building.
This door is bulging too. It's too much pressure.
I know he's been reading some books, but I still stand by my earlier assertion that operating on animals is different from operating on humans, and that John is a doctor but not a brain surgeon. But I guess when you can talk to animals, you can suddenly do anything.
Too close to his motor strip. A little more suction, Gene. I gotta be able to see.
See it? How? Through a quarter-size slit in his fur? This is brain surgery, and he's shuffling instruments around in there like he's using one of those extendo tools under the couch for a lost cat toy.
We're almost there.
I can feel it. There.
There?
That's it.
No masks, no visual aids, no direct light. Hell, he's not even at eye level with the incision. But hey, the tiger feels something there, so blindly cut that out.
He's okay.
Damn, this crowd went from this doctor is Looney Tunes to oh thank God he saved the tiger with no gradient. I guess we'll be skipping over tiger kidnapping charges and malpractice lawsuits. Just skipping right over that.
Hey, Doc, why you gonna do that? Now, if he tries to eat me again, I'ma smack that mustache off your face.
$300 million.
I'll show you, pigeon.
Time to dust off an old nugget. Oliver Splat.
So you're gonna treat both humans and animals. I love it.
Yeah, well, it's no big thing. We're all basically the same, you know?
We are not. Also, if there was any doubt how little this movie actually packed inside its 78-minute runtime before the 7-minute credits, this final shot is 45 seconds total, with a silly 15-second break in the middle where the owl chases after the rats. This movie is like cotton candy without the sugar.
Can you hear me? It's just... I've never talked to a snake before.
You gotta move it.
Who's that? Who's that? What you want?
Police. We've had some complaints.
Dead dog walking.
Dead man walking.
Jesus, please, what is he yelling about?
There we go.
Oh, my lord! Oh.
No, Kelly Clarkson!
The only problem is you're gonna get to wipe it on for him.
Does Brad Pitt need a goat?
Is there no one else?
Will you take me back to the circus?
I will take you back to the circus.
This tiger.
You goddamn motherfuckers. You waltz in here and you think you know everything, don't you? Well, I worked my ass off to get to New York City.
Hey, partner, come on, you gotta relax. Don't force it. Get a blow out your O-ring. Drop a lung.
Have you ever done this operation before?
Yeah, once in medical school. But it was to a cadaver.
And that is how the tiger lost his stripes.